The Lobera. I like saying it that way. Lobera. Tesoro Lobera. That means the wolf slayer. That's a sort of bravery that was used by Saint Ferdinand III, as a matter of fact, when I guess he was slaying wolves. But I like wolves. Why did he do that? I'm going to go back to 1200 and kick his ass for slaying wolves and shake his hand because it's a nice sword. Anyway, let's talk about the freaking keyboard. I was really excited to take a look at this keyboard, and as you can see here, it's got a very gamery aesthetic. So if you're a gamer who wants a gamery aesthetic keyboard, gamery aestheticized, yeah, it looks like a.
It's got the rivets on the side, and it's got the metal thing on the bottom.
Yeah, it's got like the faux metal finish here on the bottom. It's all plastic here, and there's like a brushed plastic look on the back here with some feet that switch up. There you go, and they go down. So that's pretty nice. Rubber feet as well, so it does not slide around on your desk. Build quality is pretty decent. The seams look really nice. This is a mechanical keyboard with gaming grade mechanical switches. Hear those switches there? Those sound like Browns, don't they? These are not Cherry MX Browns. These are actually Kali switches. And Kali switches, K-A-L-I, I believe, or K-A-L-A-I-H or something, I don't know. They're from China, and they are essentially Cherry MX clones. They're very similar, but somewhat different. And in fact, there's some other switch types that are out there, like oranges and all kinds of different things. And Razer has their own ridiculous switches that they're claiming are like, oh, the better for gaming, but really what they're saying is, hey, these are cheaper and we can make cheaper stuff and make more profit. Well, these guys are using, similar key switches and giving you something that has a ton of features with still, mechanical switches and keeping the price at a point where it's not ridiculous. So this exact keyboard comes in the blue switches, brown switches, black switches, and red switches. Now the browns are very similar to Cherry MX Browns, meaning that they are a tactile switch. When you press them down, you have 4 millimeters of total travel and 2 millimeters until the actuation point, and you do feel a bump when it actuates. These are somewhat softer than the browns. They feel softer, even though they're take 45 grams of pressure to actuate. So for some reason, they just feel mushier. The actuation bump is not as pronounced, and the click at the bottom is not as pronounced as the Cherry MX. But in games, I found that they felt almost identical to me. Otherwise, the build quality is pretty similar to the Cherry MX stuff. I did notice a little bit more play on the actual keycap itself. Like if you try to wiggle the keycap, there's a slight bit more play when compared to the Cherry MX. So very similar in quality. Possibly not as good as the Cherry MX, but just really, not much of a difference as far as I'm concerned. And they're still rated for 50 million clicks, so that's pretty nice. All right, let's talk about all the features on this keyboard, because there's a lot. First thing I want to talk about is, well, of course, you've got the backlighting that's all over the place, and you can change the lights to all. There's a ridiculous amount of different, colors that you can change this to in the software. And there's lots of different color modes and different, different luminosity levels, so you can change all that to your heart's content. Just go crazy with the colors, or just do one color, or just turn off all the colors, so you can make it look like just about anything that you want it to look like. You can even have certain colors correspond to certain profiles. Now, there are lots of different profiles here. In fact, F7 through F12 are all different profiles. And as far as the different profiles go, you can set up the profiles to do a lot of different things. It's mainly about the macros. So you can see here on the bottom here we have 3 different buttons, H1, H2, and H3, and those can be, you can go to the software and you can record some macros. Now I want to mention that the software, we're not going to do a separate video or anything on the software. The software had a lot of features, it was very functional, somewhat clunky. It crashed a few times on us, and it had a few times where it just would like stop doing things and you were like, what is the software doing? But then it would work again. Once we got it all working and everything, it did exactly what we wanted it to do. And there's a ridiculous amount of options. Like we had this set to change our audio options in Windows, and then we had, you can basically set up the macros to open up programs. You can set them up to, do key combinations, and you can even set up the delay in milliseconds between each key press. So, I mean, you can do, what else can you do with these things?
Do what?
The macros. You could do the programs opening, you could do the different key combinations. You could
any
do
kind of hotkeys or any kind of settings you want to do, you can do.
Yeah, just about anything you want. And one of the things that's interesting.
If you want to set one button to control alt delete, you can do that, or anything like that.
Just key press combinations, all kinds of things. So another thing that's interesting about this, is in the different profiles. Let's say sometimes some of the games that you're using, you only use a few keys and then you don't actually use the rest of the keyboard for typing. So we have all these keys over here that could be utilized for macros. Well, they're going to allow you to go in and change or set macros to almost any key on here other than the F keys. Those are kind of off limits because you need those to change your profiles and that sort of thing, change your lighting effects. So let's say that you're going into a game and you don't want to be bothered with the Windows key. Well, there's a gaming mode button up here on the top. It's a little plastic button up there on the top that lights up, and you can switch between PC mode and gaming mode. When you're in PC mode, all the macros are disabled. These buttons down here don't work, and then when you go into gaming mode, basically the Windows key just doesn't do anything anymore, because that's always a problem when you smack the Windows key and your archer dies and your whole party dies because your archer was the tank. All right, on the back here we've got audio ports and 2 USB ports. So there is a USB hub in here, and they give you a separate USB plug for that. And then we have, of course, the audio pass-through with microphone and headphone jack, so you can just plug it in right here. But one of the things that's interesting, I mean, these are all like gold-plated and shielded, and this is a thick braided cable that's 1.8 meters. But the one thing I really like about this here is there's a DC input jack. Now, a lot of you guys are going to use this. Some of you guys might not use this, but you basically plug in, DC power right here. And then it's 5 volts, 2.5 amps. So then you got your 2.5 amp on for fast charging and all that kind of stuff. Just add some power to those USB ports. Another thing I want to mention, there's something you can do in the functions here. You hold down the function key, and over here you see the insert and delete. You can switch between 6 key rollover and full in key rollover, which is interesting. I'm not sure why they wouldn't just not make the entire thing full in key rollover through USB, but they've given you an option there. And if any of you guys know what you would do with one versus the other, let me know. I would probably just prefer to have it full in key rollover all the time, no matter what. As far as the other functions you can do, we've got media function buttons here. Just hold down the function button and use that. Lighting controls and that sort of thing are over here. They've crammed so many things into this keyboard. There's so many different options, and a lot of it's done with the different function buttons, but there's also some buttons up here that can control things. And last but not least, this does support up to 1000 hertz ultra polling ratio. Not that big of a deal for keyboards, more of a big deal for mice. But it does, check with the computer a lot. So, the dimensions on this unit, 44.4 by 20.6 by 4.4 centimeters. That's 17.5 by 8.1 by 1.7 inches, and the weight is 1.17 kilograms. So it's not the heaviest, not the lightest. It is somewhat large for a gaming keyboard. It's got this large bezel around the sides, and again, the gamified aesthetics. So some people are either going to love that or hate that, but I'm going to be impartial in this review and just keep it to what we have here. I like all the functions. The key switches, I really, like I said, didn't tell much of a difference comparing those to my Cherry Mix Browns over there. Couldn't tell much of a difference in games, and they feel pretty good other than being a slight bit, I don't know, they just feel mushier for some reason, just a slight bit. I really like the USB hub on the back and the fact that it's powered to allow for fast charging. And as far as the colors and the aesthetics, all up to you if that's something you guys think is cool and want. So there you have it, the Tesoro Lobera. It's neat. See how sturdy it is. Strength test right now. Yeah, me and you. Oh God, that hurt. I think it won. Am I bleeding?